Session. We're thrilled that you're here. Welcome to the 2020-21 school year. Hey, seniors, shout out to you. You've made it. This is it. Today we're going to go over all the logistics and talk about all the processes that are involved in submitting your college applications. We've got a couple of presenters here. We've got Miss Lisa Fay, who is one of our great school counselors. We've also got Mrs. Alpert, who is a counselor who is new to Walton, but she is certainly not a new counselor. She comes with lots of experience and she's a great addition to our department. So with that, we are going to begin the recording and we are going to start this presentation, and I will just go ahead and turn it over to Miss Fay.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We have found we've had two of these presentations, and I know there's going to be a lot of information, but we found it's really helpful to get this information out to you guys as soon as possible, because I know a lot of you guys are getting started on your college application. So we're excited for you guys to be here. I am going to be doing a lot of talking and presenting a lot of information. So please know that this recording will be posted and the PowerPoint for you to review later on. So first, let's jump in, seniors, and so let's go through real quickly, remind you who your counselor is. So again, I'm Lisa Fay, and I have the end of the alphabet, SM to Z. And then, as Miss Gross mentioned, Miss Alpert is joining us. So if you had Miss Rangel last year, she had the opportunity to move to North Georgia, which was an opportunity she could not pass up. So I know it was a hard decision for her, but she does leave you in great hands with Miss Alpert. Miss Alpert is coming from Marietta High School. She won Marietta City School Counselor of the Year. And she's coming with years of high school experience, and she's also had teaching experience as a Spanish teacher in the classroom. So you are in great hands with her. I know many of you have concerns about your letter of recommendation being from a new counselor, but please know that that recommendation that you guys worked all summer on and turned into your English teacher this week, that's where the more information you include in there, Ms. Alpert can still write you a very personalized letter of recommendation. So we are your counseling team, and we really encourage you to reach out to us because you can't come into our offices right now. Please email us with any questions you have. We're here to help you along the way. And I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Alpert. She actually has designed our new school counseling website.
Hi, everybody. Again, I'm Betsy Alpert, like Ms. Fay said, and I'm really excited to be here at Walton, and I look forward to meeting you all, hopefully in person sooner than later, but via Zoom for right now. If you are in my part of the alphabet, I've had several students already reach out to me and send me their recommendation packets, and so I've already Zoomed with a few seniors, and then I have a few more seniors that I'm Zooming with this week so that I can go over the packet with you, and that will definitely help me when I start writing letters of recommendation. But what I do want to say, like Ms. Fay said, is that we do have a new counseling website, and really excited about it because it's very concise and it's full of so much information. And so throughout this school year, if you have questions, I can't remember how to send my transcript, or, oh, I need to have this teacher recommendation, or whatever, we really invite you to go to our website. I know it's hard to see at the bottom, www.waltoncounseling.com. And by the end of this week, it will be linked up to the Walton High School website as well. So it is a live website for us if you go to the waltonhighcounseling.com, but then by the end of this week, it should be linked up. So if you have to get through it through the Walton High School website, it will just take you directly there. So wanted to go over that. And then also, Ms. Fay, go to the next slide. We also are now on social media as well. So we're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, and we're on Instagram. And so with that, we'll just be posting updates to, anything that's going on in the counseling office, upcoming events. It's meant to disseminate information. It's not meant to have like discussions or anything. It's just solely meant for you all to be in the know, and just for like reminders. So we encourage you all to follow us on whatever your favorite social media platform is, because all the information will be the same through all three platforms. But again, I'm excited to be here and I look forward to meeting all of you. Thank you.
So Ms. Fay introduced all the counselors. I'd like to introduce you to a couple other members of the counseling team. First of all, I'm Laurel Gross. I'm Walton's college advisor. And so in my job, I get to work with students and help them with their college applications. I also coordinate the scholarships and post that information, and I coordinate the volunteer service hours. So if you have questions about any of those things, please feel free to reach out to me. Another person you should know is Mrs. Melissa Schrank, and she is the school's registrar. And Mrs. Schrank is the person who keeps track of all student records and the transcripts, and she works with the counselors to make sure that your transcripts are sent out to the colleges.
So let's dive into what we're going to cover today. We're first going to talk about different post-secondary options, and then included in that is talking about college admissions factors, and then how you build your college list. We're hoping you're coming into senior year with that list of colleges you're hoping to apply to, and you've been working on it this summer, but you hopefully can go over a little bit more information while you're fine-tuning that final list. Ms. Gross is going to review some information if you're interested in joining the military after you graduate high school. We're really going to jump into Naviance and how you do specific things this year in Naviance, how you're going to request your transcripts, your letters of recommendation, and add the colleges you're applying to your Naviance account. And then the overall college application process. We'll jump into a little bit about scholarships and financial aid, but we do have a separate financial aid night that will be coming up in October. And then Ms. Gross is going to review with you the X2 Vol requirements for your service hours and go over those requirements. And then for those that would like to stick around, we're going to do a Naviance demonstration at the end. And then of course, Ms. Alpert is monitoring the chat. So you can, most of your questions we will cover in this presentation, but if she will also be answering those questions, but try to hold off till the end to ask your questions. Okay, so first let's go over an overall view of what happens when you submit a college application to a college and what they're looking at when they get your file. And so you see there's three main things highlighted in red that schools are looking at. Almost always the first thing that a college admissions counselor is going to see is going to be that GPA. And so they're going to look at that GPA, and that tells them the most information as far as about academic preparedness, because that is what you did in the classroom over 3 years in high school so far. And with that GPA, it's important to remember that on your Walton transcript, there are two GPAs listed. You have your weighted GPA and your unweighted GPA. We are always in the counseling office going to report your weighted GPA. Oftentimes we're required to fill out a school counselor form, and we're going to report your weighted. If you are asked on an application to report your GPA, go ahead and report your weighted unless you are specifically asked to put your unweighted. And then also we'll go over which grades they're looking at in the next couple slides. Also included in that GPA is those individual grades. So they're going to be looking at those individual grades in the individual classes that you have taken. Secondly, the most important thing typically in the college admissions process is your test scores, unless it is test optional. And that is going to look very different from your graduating class because of COVID-19 and the limitability that you guys have had access to for the SAT and ACT. But for those schools that are still requiring a test score, they're going to then look at your SAT or your ACT score. Typically, we recommend you go ahead and send all your scores to the colleges, and they're always going to take the score that puts you in the best light. There's no need for you to pick and choose which test dates you want to send. So typically, it's always going to be the recommendation of the colleges, go ahead and send them all the scores. And then they're going to be looking at the rigor of your curriculum. So what classes you've chosen to take in high school. And that's where they're looking at whether or not you've chosen to challenge yourself in honors and AP courses. And then of course, they're going to look at your transcript in terms of the high school that you're coming from. So they're looking at you in terms of Walton High School, and it's their job to read the transcript within the context of their high school. So they automatically know that every class taught at Walton High School is a rigorous class. And so when we look at those three main things, some colleges are only going to be looking at those three primary things. For some of your big, large public institutions and state schools, they don't have time to do a holistic approach and then look at the other factors. They're going to be looking at the numbers. And you'll also hear that some schools, some in the state of Georgia as well, use what's called the freshman index. And that is a formula of your GPA and your test scores. And then if you then hit a number in their formula, you're then admitted. And then if you don't, you're not. So that would be for those schools looking at the freshman index. And then you have your schools that are using a holistic approach in the admissions process. And the holistic approach means they're looking at the whole person, so not just the numbers. And that's when they're going to take a look at the other factors listed on the left-hand side of the page. So let's go through those and take a look. And so that's when you're going to look at your extracurricular activities. And so it's important when you list your extracurricular activities, sometimes you're limited in the amount of spaces. So go ahead and pick the ones you feel that have been most instrumental in your life. And then in that, you want to highlight any sort of leadership opportunities you've had within those extracurricular activities. And that does not have to be president of the club, co-president. That's anything that in that club you took an initiative to handle, go ahead and include that. And then if a college asks for an essay, some colleges don't, but if they ask an essay, that's going to be an important piece of that admissions process. That's your opportunity to tell that admissions counselor something else about you that isn't anywhere else in your application. So you don't want to utilize your essay to tell them something that was already in your extracurricular section. You want to use that to tell something that might not be quantifiable in another part of your application. It should come from your voice. So it should be in the voice of a 17, 18-year-old student, not in the voice of a formal, English paper. They want to hear your voice. Oftentimes these admissions counselors are right out of college. They're reading hundreds of these a day. They want something that's fresh and that just, flows easily and is easy to read. So then comes letters of recommendation. And like we said, some schools are just looking at the numbers. So if on the admissions page, it will clearly list what parts of the application are required. If they don't list letters of recommendation, that means you don't send letters of recommendation. That means they don't use it in the admissions process. But if they do, they're usually pretty clear about how many they want. Typically, it would be 1 or 2 if they're asking for them. And typically, they're looking at your academic teachers. So that's your English, math, science, social studies, and world language teachers are all considered academic. And oftentimes, they want that to be from somebody that's had you recently, so probably your junior year. And the reason being is if you had them freshman year, they can't really speak to who you are as a student today. And hopefully, since 9th grade year, you've matured as a student, and you want that teacher to be able to speak to who you are today. And then another thing is some schools will track demonstrated interest. And this is, do they have record on file of you being interested in their school? So of course, we're going to talk about it, but you can't visit schools right now, or at least most of them. So have you attended their virtual college tours? Are you going to attend the virtual college session when they come to Walton? Have you reached out to them, signed up for their mailing? And again, this plays into the fact that colleges are a business, and their job is for their rankings to go up. And they have what's called a yield, meaning if that college offers 200 students admissions, they want a large percent of those students to say yes. And for those schools that track demonstrated interest, they know, okay, I can see that student A has really spent some time getting to know our college. I think this student, if I offer admissions, they might have a better chance of saying yes. And please know your big state schools aren't using demonstrated interest. These are typically going to be your more selective or more private schools that have the ability to track this. And so you can always ask an admissions counselor if they use demonstrated interest in their admissions process. So that's overall when a college admissions counselor gets a file, what they're going to be looking at. So let's talk about seniors. You've been building that college list. So we get a lot of questions about how many colleges should be in that list. And I would say typical is probably 5 to 8, but we have some students that are going to apply to a couple that they feel very confident about. And then we have some students that are going to get above 10. What I would caution you is if you have a small amount of number, that you're not, those small amount of numbers are really going to be in your likely schools, meaning you feel really confident your GPA and test scores are above the middle 50%. And then those that are getting up above 10, it's something you really want to talk about with your family because one, our professional advice is when you get a high number of schools, you don't have the time to really invest in spending time on those applications and especially those ones that require essays. And two, it becomes a very expensive process with paying to send your test scores, paying to send your transcripts, and paying for the applications that can range from $70 to $100 a piece. So we want you really doing that. We really want you exploring those schools and then narrowing down your list to the ones that you apply. So let's build this list. So we want to, whatever number you may be, we want you to have a range of schools. And range, we mean likely, match, and reach. And likely, as we just talked about, we don't call it safety anymore because in college admissions, things have gotten a little bit unpredictable. We can never say for sure, especially in our office, yes, I think you'll get in. No, I don't, because we have things that happen every year that surprise us. So we call it likely. And likely would be if you go to a college's website and you look under the admissions tab, typically you can find what's called the freshman profile. And it's going to give you data points of the students that were accepted in the previous class. So for example, they're going to typically give you the GPA, and they may report that as the average GPA or the middle 50% GPA of the student that was admitted. And typically they're going to give you test scores. And so if your GPA and test scores are above that middle 50%, that's a good chance that you might be admitted to their school. So you could put that in the likely category. We want most of your schools to be in the match, and the match would be that your test scores and GPA fall within that range, that middle 50% range. And then reach would be, we want you to limit that to maybe 1 or 2 schools, and that would be where your GPA and test scores was below that middle 50%. I also think any school that says they admit less than 10% of their applicant pool should fall in the reach school for all our students, because that is showing that it is a highly selective school and they're admitting and that admissions is very competitive. So you want to put that into the reach. And so you're going to build that list using these 3 factors. And one thing to point out, if you don't have this college list ready and you're still working on and creating this, you can reach out to us, and then Ms. Gross is also taking meetings to help make sure that your list has those likely match and reach schools. A couple of the other things to consider is, again, we're checking that admissions page on the college's website, and you're checking the admissions requirements. 99.9% of the time, the classes of Walton you've taken will meet those admissions requirements. If you run into any issues, reach out to your counselor and we can see what we can do to make sure you'll have that requirement before you graduate. Another thing, what we talked about in a previous slide, is the GPA. And most schools are going to recalculate that weighted GPA on the academic core, which again, academic is your English, math, science, social studies, and world language. So they are going to throw out your electives and recalculate your core. And oftentimes with that recalculation, they're going to strip our weighting, so that half quality point for honors and that full quality point for AP, and they're going to add a standardized weighting so that they can compare students across the country in a similar way. Okay. Some schools will take the weighted GPA right off our transcript, which we love, but most will recalculate on that core GPA. Now, students, that doesn't mean they're not looking at the orchestra classes you've taken for 4 years, or the band, or the broadcasting, or the art. They're just not using those in the GPA calculation. Okay, the next one is, again, that demonstrated interest that we talk about. We talked about weighted and unweighted GPAs. And then we do not report class rank anymore. Cobb County policy changed last year. So when you are asked on a college application, what is your class rank? You are going to respond by my high school does not rank students. And the same will be true that for the school counselor. We will also put that on your school report. Okay. So when you apply to college, you are going to find the application. And if, again, you're going to go to that college's website under admissions, and it's going to direct you to the application, the online application. And oftentimes, there are more than one application that you can use. And no preference is given to which application you use. Oftentimes, that information is going to come to the admissions counselor the same way, no matter which application you use. So you're going to see an application that may be developed by a college, and they're going to have their own application platform. Most students are going to use the Common App for at least one school. And the Common Application is an application with over 800 colleges, and it allows you to enter your general information only once. So it makes the process easier for you. And then there's now the Coalition application that is another college platform with the application. So I recommend make your list of colleges, make a spreadsheet, get your list of colleges, then write out each application type that is available, and then look for the common denominators and use that application that streamlines the process the best for you. And then sometimes you're going to be linked, especially from Georgia colleges, to the Georgia Futures website, where their application is actually directly on the Georgia Futures website. For your essays, we know we already talked a little bit about your essays, but it's very important you start working on those early so you're not rushing them and spending time. And your senior English teachers are going to be working on those very soon with you if they have not already mentioned it to you in the first couple of days of school. And then once you've submitted your application, what typically happens is you then get an email that says, hi Jane, thank you for applying to our college. Please create an account now. And you'll create an account, which will then allow you to access a status report of that application. So you're typically gonna see application, check, transcript, check, letter of recommendation 1, check. And so you're gonna be able to monitor what parts of your application they've received and if you're missing anything. And so with a lot of emails coming through, students, you might want to create an email address separate just for your applications that you check every day. If you have one that you've had for a long time and you're getting a ton of junk mail in it, that might not be the best one to do so you don't miss an important email, because we have students every year that miss those important emails. So think about that in starting this application process. Okay. So we're going to keep going, guys. I know it's a lot of information, and again, this will be recorded. So you've got your list together of your colleges. Now you have to decide which deadline you're going to apply to. So I want to make sure you guys understand all the different deadlines. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is something called early decision. An early decision is not offered by most schools, but your more selective schools and some of your private schools might give you this option. And what this option says is you can apply early decision, which is typically between October 15th and November 15th. And you're letting that college know you are my #1 school. You are my dream school. I have researched the finances. If I am accepted to this school, I am going to accept, and I have to withdraw all my applications, other applications, and I'm done and I'm going to that school. And so this is for the student who truly knows this is where they want to go and again has done the research. The reason some students are saying, well, why would I ever do that? I don't want to close my options. The reason is that some colleges that offer early decision will accept a huge percent of their admission, of their applicant pool or their incoming class from that ED pool. Because again, that is an automatic yield for them. And so that makes their rankings go up. So for example, some schools again are their admissions, your acceptance rate, so you might be 25% chance of getting in an ED, and that could drop to 6% if you apply in regular decision. So you want to look at those stats for your colleges and then make that decision. So early decision 1 comes between October 15th and December 15th. Early decision 2 typically happens around January and February. That's for students who might apply somewhere ED1, they've heard they didn't get in, and then they want to try ED2, or they're just not ready to make that decision yet in the fall, and that gives them a little bit more time to explore and make that early decision agreement. When you apply to a school early decision, you have to sign an agreement, your parent or guardian has to sign the agreement, and then you have to email your counselor, and your counselor has to sign it. If you don't let us know, there is a chance that that early decision agreement may not get submitted, and then you would not be considered for early decision. So that's early decision. Early action. Many schools in Georgia offer early action. Early action is non-binding. That is just going to be that they are breaking their application deadlines into two different time slots. It allows them to evaluate big application numbers in different times of the year. So early action is also going to be between October 15th and November 15th, but there's no binding decision. You don't have to, if you are accepted early action, that you do not have to go to that school. You're just going to find out typically by the end of the calendar year or in January. So you're going to find out earlier. We are going to encourage you to go ahead like most schools will. If you're ready and you have test scores, which I know is a little up in the air for some of our students, but if you're ready, we are going to recommend you go ahead and apply early action if that is offered to you. So single choice restricted early action is also going to be non-binding, but you're really going to only see this option by your Ivy League schools or by your highly selective schools. And what this means is it's not early decision, so it's not binding, but if you go this route, you cannot apply anywhere early decision. So it's kind of still telling that school it's your #1 school, and it's telling that school you didn't apply early decision anywhere. And so if you want to talk about that and you're looking at somewhere like that, let us know. Rolling admissions, those are going to be your schools. Those are typically your big state schools. Like Alabama right now is on rolling. That means their admissions committees, they're going to meet every few weeks. They're going to review those applications as they receive a completed application. They're going to get an admissions decision out to you and let you know whether or not you've been accepted. So they're rolling basis, they are reviewing applications. And then regular decision typically falls on the other end of early decision or early action. That deadline is going to be anywhere from January 1st to April. And that means that they are going to let you know typically in late spring whether or not you've been accepted if you apply regular decision. Other deadlines you might see is priority deadline. That college is just saying if you get your application in by this priority deadline, we're probably going to be able to let you know an admissions decision by this date. This can also mean scholarships. So some will write priority deadline, some will write scholarship deadline, but you want to check that because some colleges have a separate deadline that if you want to be considered for their merit-based scholarships, you have your application in by that certain date. Okay, so in talking about all that, we have to address the fact that COVID-19 has had a big impact on college admissions. And so we know that testing has been incredibly frustrating for your graduation class. And so SAT and ACT has both added additional test dates this fall to hopefully get seniors in. We have heard mixed reviews on whether or not seniors are going to give priority to those deadlines. I would encourage you to keep checking the SAT website and the ACT website, seeing what's open, trying to get into those testing dates that you want to. If you are unable to, many colleges have gone test optional. So what does that mean? Test optional means you don't have to submit a test score to be considered for admissions to that college. But what I would warn you is, if you do have a test score and you go test optional, that means they're going to have to put more weight on other parts of your application. So So if you don't have a test score, they may look more heavily at your GPA, or they may look more heavily at your rigor of your curriculum. If you have a test score and you're debating whether or not to still go test optional for that college, again, look at that school profile. And if your test score falls within that middle 50%, my recommendation is go ahead and send them that information, because that gives them more information for them to utilize, and you're within their middle 50%. College visits. So I would encourage you, most of you guys have not been able to visit colleges, and hopefully that will change in the spring. And we all know that's the best way to really see if a college is a good fit for you. But what this has done is this has allowed colleges to really utilize the virtual world to reach out to students. So if you visit the college virtual, every college now has a virtual section, and you can really go on virtual tours. You can attend virtual information sessions with admissions counselors and learn about that school. So it actually has opened a lot of opportunities without having to travel, where I still think you can gather a lot of good information about a college. And then of course, Ms. Gross is going to talk about the virtual college visits that are happening at Walton. And then also want to let you know that the Common App has added a very specific question about COVID-19. And so in that section, you can enter in any way that COVID-19 has impacted you, whether it be your grades, your extracurricular activities, whatever it may be. Use that area on the Common App, and I think you'll see it in other applications as well, to talk about the way COVID-19 has impacted you. What they don't want you to do is then use that, your essay, your other essay, to talk about COVID-19. Use that opportunity to tell them something else about you. And then I would encourage you more than ever, continue to go to the college's website and check admissions requirements and deadlines. They're constantly changing. And so also, if you go ahead and sign up for emails from that college, you're going to get updates through that as well. So making sure that you're definitely staying on top of the most up-to-date information that college has to offer. Okay. A few other things. We're getting these questions a lot, especially for the Common App. So go ahead, you can screenshot this so you have this information later, and we're going to post it. Our current class size is 669 students for the class of 2021. That may fluctuate a little bit as students come in and withdraw, but that is our current class size. Again, we don't rank students. When they ask you what you're grading, what is the Walton grading scale, that is going to be the weighted 4.0 scale. We are not on a 5.0 scale. We are on a weighted 4.0. And then a lot of students ask, should I waive my rights to my letters of recommendation? Absolutely. You always want to waive your rights. You are trusting when you ask that teacher or counselor for a letter of recommendation, they are going to write a strong letter of recommendation for you. So go ahead and waive your rights. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Gross to talk a little bit about two-year colleges in the military.
All right, so most students tend to think about four-year programs for colleges, getting a bachelor's degree.
I don't want to listen to the rest of it.
Two-year colleges and two-year college programs
I really had to listen to the rest of it.
offer opportunities to for great career experience and education. And we encourage everybody, whether you're going to for college or a two-year college, if you can get some training and career experience, it just puts you ahead as you enter the career field. So there are basically two programs within a two-year college. One is where you would take your core academic classes, and these are generally the prerequisites for a traditional four-year college program. So often, if you're going into a four-year program, your first 2 years of classes will be what they call general education classes, and they'll probably require you to take a couple of English classes, some humanities, perhaps a science or some math, maybe even a world language. But they want you to have those core classes completed before you really start your concentration on your major. A two-year college can offer those programs to you, and then you can transfer those credits to a four-year university. And often that's a very cost-effective way to pay for your first 2 years of college and then move on to a four-year college. The other program that they offer is general coursework and more practical hands-on training to provide a concentrated curriculum in a specific career field. So typically these programs are either certificate programs or diploma programs, and they generally take between a year to 2 years to complete. You would probably have some core academic classes that you would take, and then you would start to focus on those hands-on or really practical courses, getting the training you need so that you either can get a certification in a particular career field or you have a diploma in that area and you're ready to go straight into the workforce. Some examples of those two-year programs are Georgia State University, their Perimeter campus, and Chattahoochee Technical College. They both offer a wide range of programs. If you are interested in just a technical college program where you want that career training, the technical system of Georgia has a very extensive career program, educational path, and a lot of these are in high demand fields, which means they would be eligible for additional money through the HOPE Career Grant. So they have programs in the topics that I've got listed on the slide, and students in these programs are typically eligible for the HOPE grant, which is not tied to a GPA and allows the student to take classes and then get reimbursed for the cost of those classes. So that is also really cost effective. We've included a link to the technical college system of Georgia. So if you have questions about that, you can go on their website and look at some of those careers. And Ms. Fay, if you would take me to the next slide. The requirements for technical colleges and two-year colleges, generally they require an SAT and an ACT. In lieu of that, you may be asked to take what's called the AccuPlacer exam. And that is strictly a placement exam. And what they are trying to determine in that is that you have the appropriate foundation so that you will be successful in the courses. You know, as math is a curriculum building program, you need to have that foundation so that you can go on to the more advanced classes. Two-year colleges typically require a 2.0 GPA, and they're also looking for the Georgia graduation requirements, which is the core curriculum, and they want 2 credits in a world language as well. All right. So the next option for students after college is military and the armed forces. And there are a couple of pathways in this career choice. So you can go into military enlistment, and that's where you would graduate from high school and you would go straight into the military. For students that are interested in that, they would be directed to take what's called the ASVAB, and that is a vocational assessment battery. And so what they're trying to determine is where are your skills, your interests, your knowledge. So for example, a student who is really interested in engineering, they would be looking for skills in math and probably building and interest in just all the things that engineers do, versus a student who is really strong in English might be better suited for a career in communication. And so based on that, the results of that ASVAB, they will use that to direct the student into an appropriate career choice within the service. Students that want to enlist should contact the branch recruiter, and they should also request their transcript be sent to them upon graduation. The next group is service academy. So that includes West Point, the Naval Academy at Annapolis, and the Air Force Academy. These are highly selective programs. They require an extensive application process, and they also require an endorsement by a member of the US Senate or a congressman or congresswoman in our case. And so you would have to do an additional application for that and then sit for an interview to get that endorsement. The final category in this is ROTC scholarship programs, and these are on-campus experiences. So you are enrolled as a student at that campus, but you are also enrolled in the ROTC program. During your time at college, you're taking classes on campus and doing all the things that students normally do, but you're also going to special ROTC classes and taking some training throughout the week. They generally have service requirements for students, some weekends and possibly over the summer that would be off campus. You would be, you would go to a military base perhaps, and then they definitely have a service requirement. Usually it's about the number of years that they're giving you tuition in college for after graduation. So if you had a 4-year scholarship through ROTC, you would probably have a 3-year or a 4-year requirement.
Okay, so we're going to jump into talking specifically about Naviance and more about application procedures in Naviance. So let's first go over how do you log in, because we're still getting questions about how you get into Naviance. So last year, Cobb County bought a county subscription to Naviance, and as a result, it now links through Clever. So you're using Clever a lot to access different resources. You're using Clever to access Naviance. So no longer do you have an individual username and password for Naviance. You are going to go through a Clever link, and then you are going to be using your Office 365 username and password. And because of CTLS, you guys now are all very familiar with your Office 365 username and password. I find the easiest way to get to that link is to go to the Walton website, and then at the top right, click the baseball, and that is going to take you right into then entering your Office 365 information and then log you into Naviance. Hopefully when we return to school, if you're on a school computer, you are automatically logged in when you click the baseball. So that's how you would find your Naviance account. When you log in, you guys are going to see your home page. This should not be new to you unless you're new to our school. And you're going to see on the front page, you're going to see some very helpful links. You're going to see the colleges I'm thinking about, colleges I'm applying to. And this year, you guys are going to be spending a lot of time in that colleges I'm applying to tab. And so you may in junior year have entered colleges into the colleges I'm thinking about. And now you can move those over into the colleges I'm applying to tab. So one thing I want to mention is I want you guys, students, to screenshot this. And when we are done, it is very important that you check your account in Naviance to make sure we have your up-to-date personal email address that you check. It is very, very important that you check your email. That is how we got this information out about this presentation. Cobb County does not keep a list of your personal email addresses. So this is our way to communicate with you in the virtual world. So please, please, please make sure we have an email address on file. And if it's not an up to date, just click the pencil next to it and update your email address for us. Other things you can do with Naviance is you can continue to research colleges. There's a great college search tool. Super Match is on there, which you guys utilized last year during junior advisement. You can also build a resume if you have to submit a resume for a college. You can build a resume using Naviance so you don't have to individually format it yourself. You can communicate with us. It's linked to our email address. Ms. Gross is going to talk about there's a national scholarship search database, and then also any scholarships that come our way, she's going to be posting in Naviance. And then, of course, that's where you're going to go to sign up for these virtual college visits that are going to start happening very soon. So let's talk about what it looks like for you in the colleges I'm applying to tab. So you saw from the homepage that you can click right into the colleges I'm applying to tab, or you can always go into the colleges tab. And this is where you are going to add the colleges that you are going to apply to. And any college application that you submit needs to be in Naviance. Otherwise, we can't send your documents to get to that college unless you have entered this information. So the way you're going to do it is you're going to click that red arrow button to click Add a School. And it's going to bring up this screen. you're going to start typing the college that you're applying to. You want to double check that you have chosen the right college. There are several colleges with similar names, but might be in different cities. So make sure you've chosen the right college. You need to tell us the application type. That again, that's, are you applying early action? Are you applying early decision? Are you applying rolling, regular decision? It's important to let us know that, because that then gives us a deadline. We are going to go by the deadline that you use when you request your transcript, which we're going to go through, but we also utilize this as a double check. So it's important to get this right. And then I'll submit my application. That's going to tell us which application you used. So did you use the college's own application, or did you use the Common App? It is very important you fill this out correctly. If you write that you use the application on the college's website, but then you actually use Common App, the college may not get your information. They're going to be looking for it in Common App. So we have students every year that don't put this correctly, and then they wonder why the college is missing those documents. So very important to tell us which application you've used. And then you click Add Application. So 3 main pieces of information to tell us. You're going to see a dashboard that looks like this when you add colleges, and under submission type, you're going to see little icons. And I want to go through what those icons mean. So the icons, let's start. If you see something that looks like a stamp, that means that college has not bought the rights to Parchment, which is the delivery service that Naviance used to submit documents back and forth, or submit documents from the high school to the college. And we're going to have to mail your transcript and your letters of recommendation. You will not see many schools that have this mail option, but if you do, just something to be aware of. The electronic, which is the blank computer screen, also known as eDocs or direct to institution, that means they have their own application, or the coalition uses this as well. This is just direct. This means that the documents go straight from the high school to the college. So it's just a direct electronic transaction. Common App means you use the Common App, and what happens when you use the Common App is the documents actually go from the high school up to your Common App account, and then when the college downloads your application, it pulls those additional documents with it. The question mark, if you see the question mark, that means you haven't told us which application you're using, and so you need to hit that little edit button and go back and edit it and tell us which application you're using, okay? If you see a Common App with a line, that means that that college is on the Common App, but you're using their own individual application. And so that's going to be, again, electronic transfer. And then the Common App with the stamp means they are on the Common App, but you use their own application, which is now a mail only, and we have to mail it. So if you have any questions about that, again, don't hesitate to reach out to us. We'd rather make sure it's correct than you run into problems down the road. So again, this is what you're going to see by the dashboard. You can always go in and edit it, but make sure that this information is correct. If you make sure your information is correct, it's going to make it a lot easier on our end. And then we're going to email you if we have any questions, and the college, it's not in here. If you look in the transcript is going to say no request, or it's going to be blank. That's because you are not requesting your transcripts in Naviance. You're adding the college in Naviance, and this year you're actually going to be requesting and paying for your transcript in My Payments Plus. So don't become alarmed when that transcript is blank. You're going to monitor the status of our materials under Office Materials. And right now it says pending, and when we send our stuff, it's going to switch to Initial Materials Submitted, okay? So important that you know that, Initial Materials Submitted. So we get the question, well, Ms. Faye, how long does it take for you guys to send the documents? If it's a transcript and doesn't require a recommendation or a counselor report, Ms. Schrank is going to process those usually in 24 to 48 hours. If it requires a school counselor report, which every Common App does, which often also includes our letter of recommendation, we're not going to get to those right away. We're going to work maybe closer to the deadlines, and often those schools are not on rolling admissions. Often those schools are working on deadlines, okay? So let's go on to the next screen. We've talked about the Common App. If you want to refer back to this for additional information, you can. One other thing I wanted to highlight with the Common App, you have to match your Common App account to your Naviance account for them to talk to each other. And when you're in that Colleges I'm Applying To tab, you're gonna see this match account, and it's gonna allow you to do that. We have posted a video here that also walks you through how to do that. A lot of students say, it's not letting me do it. And the reason being is you probably haven't done the two things that are required. You have to have added at least one college in your Common App. And under that college, under the recommender section, is the FERPA waiver that we talked about. And you have to waive your rights in FERPA first, or not waive your rights. Again, our recommendation is to waive. But you have to have done those two things to then allow your applications to be matched. And so if you haven't matched it, we're not going to be able to send your documents, and we're going to reach back out to you and say, hey, remember, you got to match your Common App so we can send your documents. And we talked about the non-Common App schools with the electronic signal. This is just more information for you to refer back to. And then the coalition, and some of you guys might say, well, why isn't there a coalition icon? And the reason being is Naviance and coalition, they don't work together. So that's why we still do the direct to institution for coalition schools and send those documents directly to the institution instead of loading back up into the coalition application. Okay, so let's talk about then teacher recommendations. So hopefully you guys have already been thinking about who you want to write your teacher recommendations. Again, if all your schools on your list don't require teacher recommendations, you don't need to ask a teacher. That's okay, and many schools do not. But if they do, you need to give them at least 3 to 4 weeks notice before your first deadline. And what I recommend, since you don't get to see them in person right now, is drafting an email to them. It should be formal. Dear Miss Smith, I would like, you know, I was wondering if you could please write my letter of recommendation. This would mean so much to me. Thank you so much. Once you have heard back from them that they are willing to, then you can add the request in Naviance. Don't add the request first and you haven't asked that teacher first, okay? It's also important, once they've done it, it's really nice to send a follow-up thank you note as well, because oftentimes teachers are writing these letters on their own time. So once you've received permission, you also are gonna then send them that teacher recommendation information form that was part of your summer packet. You're gonna send them that form, and the more details you give in that form, the better the better details that teacher might be able to speak to, and it might help them remember specific projects you might have done that they can talk about. And colleges really like when teachers can talk specifics in a letter of recommendation for them. It helps them, if that teacher is just, or we are just giving general adjectives, sometimes it's harder to really understand who that student is. So giving them specifics to help them remember that can be really helpful for them. So you want to fill that out and send that to them. And then you're going to come back into Naviance, and there's a teacher recommendation tab. And in there, once you've added your colleges I'm applying to list, you're now going to assign your teachers to those schools. And that's going to look like this. You're going to select the teacher, and then it's going to load the schools that you've added to the colleges I'm applying to, and you're going to assign that college to specific schools. You'll see at the bottom, there is an option to choose all current and future colleges. We don't want you to choose this. We want you to choose specific. And the main reason is if you are looking at, for example, Georgia Tech right here, they allow one teacher recommendation. And Common App schools are going to load automatically how many teacher recs. If it's not Common App, you're going to go and have to do that research on your own on the admissions page. But if they allow one, and you request teacher A for all future and teacher B for all future, it's going to be whichever teacher hits the button first. And you might go, well, hey, I wanted really teacher A, but teacher B hit first. We can't do anything. Colleges don't let us switch those out. But if you assign only one teacher in the specific, then mistakes can't happen. So please go to specific. So this is when you go to add your teacher recs. It's really helpful to have your colleges I'm applying to list built. So then the teachers are going in and processing these requests at one time. It's okay if you add schools later down the road. Just don't forget, when you add additional college in the college I'm applying to, don't forget to then request that teacher and add that school. So you have to go back in, so it's a two-part process. And then you can track the teacher recommendations in Naviance under status. You can see it will change from requested to submitted once they've completed their part. For our counselor recommendations, it's helpful for you to, again, do the research, see if you need a counselor recommendation. If you have questions, let us know. We also need we need at least 3 to 4 weeks before your first deadline. We're going to be writing over 100 letters of recommendation. So you got to give us some time to make sure we can write a very personalized letter. We do not write form letters at Walton High School, so please know we read the packets, we read every word you say, and we're going to spend a lot of time on your individual letter of recommendation. But if you turned your packet into your English teacher, that English teacher isn't sending it to us. So you have to individually email us a copy of your packet. Again, it should be a professional email. Hi, Ms. Fay. Thank you so much for writing my letter of recommendation. Please see attached for my packet. You don't have to ask us for permission to write your letter of recommendation. We are your school counselor, and we are going to write your counselor recommendation if one is required. So just please make sure you email us a copy of your packet in at least 3 to 4 weeks. You don't have to request your counselor recommendation in Naviance. We send that at the time that you request your transcript. We are going to send our recommendation when we send your transcript. And again, if Ms. Schrank, if it's something that is not just a transcript, she then lets us know, and then we send those together. Okay. So how do you send your transcript? The number one question. We are going to begin accepting transcript requests August 26th, just a few days away. For those of you, please know the reason why is counselors are reviewing your transcripts right now. Your transcript is being reviewed by 2 counselors to make sure everything is correct. We're making sure your in progress classes are correct. So that is why we have not loaded them yet. If any schedule changes, which at this point none are really happening, only for very few exceptions, but we just want to make sure they're accurate before we send them. And so we will load them up and be ready to go on August 26th. And it is a 2-part process. You are going to add the colleges I'm applying to, as we've already talked about, and then you are going to request and pay for your transcript in My Payments Plus. And this was the best way we could do it in the virtual world. So you will have to lean on a parent or a guardian probably for this, because students don't have their own My Payment Plus accounts. But there will be, after August 26th, you're going to see a transcript fee and request option. It's going to ask you a couple questions, and then you're going to pay $2 for each transcript. If you don't do both steps, your transcript will not be sent. So make sure you're following that 2-part process. This is more details about what it's going to look like in My Payments Plus once it's active, that you can reference this PowerPoint when you go to do it if you can't find where that transcript fee and request form is. Okay. For sending your test scores, Ms. Gross, are you gonna review this?
No, go ahead.
Okay. So to review test scores, you need to send your official test scores directly from the testing agency if that is what the college is asking for. So you're going to log into your College Board account or your ACT account, go to send scores and choose the colleges. It's typically going to charge somewhere between $11 and $12 a college. And you do not want to wait till the last minute for this. This is not instantaneous. It can take up to 3 to 4 weeks for colleges to get those scores. So please be aware of that and plan ahead. Make sure you see which test date is the last they're going to accept for each deadline. That's available on their website as well. If you have an upcoming test, you can go ahead and add up to 4 schools in that send scores, and those will be free if you do it at the time of your registration. If you wait till after 8 days of your registration, you're then going to have to pay per school. So it's up to you whether or not you want to wait and see those scores, or you want those scores to go ahead and send. And when those scores get sent, they're going to go ahead. The default is to go ahead and send all your SAT scores or all your ACT scores. Some colleges are allowing you to self-report your test scores on the actual application, and then you only have to send your official ones once you've been accepted and decided to go there. And again, that will be laid out on the admissions webpage. If you are applying to a school that requires or recommends the subject test, this list is getting smaller and smaller. You want to make sure that you have signed up to take that or try to get into one. If you still can't get into one and a school is requiring them, I recommend reaching out to that admissions counselor and discussing it with them. But again, many colleges have made exceptions for this year because they understand students haven't been able to test for those subject tests, which typically happened in May and June. And for students who haven't heard about the subject test, this is really going to only be required and recommended by your most highly selective schools. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Gross for college visits.
All right. Hopefully, most of you went to some of the college visits that we had last year. Every year, we get about 100 colleges that come to Walton, specifically because they're interested in our students. They know that our students have great leadership, they're academically strong, they're intellectually curious, and they're a good fit for those campuses. This year, all our visits will be virtual, which means that we will be sending out Zoom links, and you'll be able to ask questions. These will still be like a regular college visit in that you'll have an opportunity to ask questions. And so the expectation is that you come to that meeting and that you are prepared to ask questions, you ask thoughtful questions, you are respectful in that meeting, and they're looking at you. It's a chance for them to see you too. And when you have your name on your screen, like we all do, they know that you're either interested and engaged in that meeting, or you're drifting off and you're looking at your phone or doing something else. So please pay attention to that. Students will sign up in Naviance. These programs are open to junior and senior students only. All right, and they will all occur during non-instructional time. So we've put them at times when they are like 1:30 to 4:30, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and then Wednesday morning first thing, so they will not interfere with your class time at all. And Ms. Fay, if you could flip to the next slide. All right, so to register for a college visit, you're going to go into Naviance and sign up. You must sign up at least 12 hours ahead of time so that we've got time to get you the link. Under the college visit section, under what's new, you'll see a link that says register now, and you click on that. When you do this, there's an extra step this year. Because we're using Zoom links to give you access to the meeting, you may just have to copy that link and hang on to it, and then the day of the meeting you will log in. Some of you may be asked to click on another registration link. Please pay attention to that. So colleges are trying to get your contact information. When Ms. Fay was talking about demonstrated interest, one of the things she mentioned was that colleges want to know that you have taken the time to investigate and find out about that college. So they are tracking who has contacted them. They also are putting you on their mailing list then so that they can reach out to you. And one important note I would add is that if you're getting email from colleges, you should be opening it promptly because they are tracking how you're reading those emails. Getting back to the registrations, please make sure that you have that correct Zoom link before the meeting. The way our programs are scheduled this year is I've got them scheduled back to back on those days. And most likely I will be going from one virtual meeting to the next, which means that if you can't find the link to the meeting 20 minutes before the program starts, I am not going to have access to email and I won't know that you're having a problem. So go back to Naviance, all the information will be there. Make sure that you either set up a working page, a Word document or something with all those links and the dates, or just know that you can go back to Naviance to get that information. Okay, all right. We've got a couple of events coming up. The first one is a senior parent night on Monday, August 24th. This is a virtual presentation. A lot of the information that we talked about today will be included. We're gearing this program specifically to parents and how parents can help their students through the process. We will include a link for a general session, which starts at 6:30, and then we will have a second link actually on highly selective colleges and the process for those schools at 7:30. So if you're interested in both programs, we will be sending it out probably tomorrow. When you get that information, make sure that you keep track of both links. The other thing is that on Tuesday, October 6th, we will be doing a financial aid night, and we have a representative from the Georgia Student Finance Commission who will speak. He is our financial aid guru, and he will do a presentation to junior and senior parents and students that are interested. Okay, Ms. Fay, I'm going back to you.
Okay, so again, we're going to briefly talk about financial aid. So with financial aid, with every college that you're applying to, you've gone to the admissions tab, you've thoroughly read everything that is part of the application. There will also be a financial aid tab, and it will clearly lay out every step that you need to take if you want to apply for financial aid. And typically the first thing that it's going to ask you to do is to fill out the free application for federal student aid, otherwise known as the FAFSA. If you ever go to a website that is asking you to pay, you are not at the right spot. And this is going to open for your graduating class on October 1st. And each college may set their own deadlines on when you need to have this completed in. You will need your parents or guardians' help with this because this is going to be based on their taxes that they filed in the previous year. So you want to make sure you work with them, make sure you get that in before the deadline. Also, the free application for federal student aid also serves as your application for the Hope Scholarship as well, including Hope and Zell. So a great thing to go ahead and start doing once it goes live in October. Part of that is also the net price calculator that you can see, and you can get a good idea about what might be if you are, and again, this is only looking at federal funds from the federal government, and so you can get a pretty good idea up front about what, if you're going to receive any federal aid. And then each college on their website is mandated to have a net price calculator that you can enter in your information and get an idea about what your family's contribution per year would possibly be for tuition. So there's a lot of great resources on that financial aid application page for each college. You might see there is a second application that they're going to require to be eligible for financial aid. And you might see the CSS profile. And this is actually run by College Board. It costs money to submit this one. And the CSS profile is mostly going to be used by private schools. And it is going to ask your family a lot more information about their finances. And the reason being is private schools have more pots of money that they can give to students. So they want to know more information about you. So you want to make sure you're doing that research and looking at the CSS profile if you need it. Students, let's quickly go over the Hope Scholarship. You guys have been hearing this information since freshman year about the requirements, so this is not new for you. If you are going to a school in Georgia, you may be eligible for the Hope Scholarship or the Zell Miller Scholarship. It would be, if you're eligible for Zell, it is an income, you are then, you don't get this, both the Zell and Hope. You get one or the other. The Hope Scholarship, the requirement is going to be a 3.0 academic GPA. So that's going to again be language arts, social studies, math, science, and world language. And then if you have that 3.0 at the end of senior year and decide to go to a public university in the state of Georgia, that's going to cover approximately 80–90% of your base tuition costs. The Hope and Zell is not going to cover books, fees, and tuition, just those base tuition costs. Something else to note in that 3.0 calculation, they do not weight the same we do. They are going to give a half quality point for AP, and they are not going to weight honors. So please know you can check what your Hope GPA or your Zell Miller GPA is on the Georgia Future website by going to www.gafutures.org and going to check my Hope GPA. please know it does not currently include your second semester of junior year. We wait till all summer grades and all transcripts have been verified to load that information up to that website. And so that is going to be done at the beginning of September. So after the beginning of September, you'll see your most up-to-date HOPE or Zell GPA. For the Zell Miller, which covers 100% of those base tuition costs instead of approximately 80 to 90%, you need a 3.7 core GPA, same weighting is used, and then a minimum test score, which is a 1200 in one sitting on the SAT or a 26 in one sitting on the ACT. And then also included in that is you have to have 4 rigorous courses, which we've been going over and went over during junior advisement. Again, you can monitor your rigorous courses on the Georgia Future website. This is not 4 AP classes. This is not 4 honors. Algebra 2 and a 4th math counts as 2 out of your 4. If you took physics, if you took chemistry, so advanced science classes are going to count in your 4. And then any second year of world language and beyond is going to count. So many of you have covered those 4 rigorous courses. If you have any questions, let us know. There is also something called the HOPE grant, and this applies if you are looking at a technical college and you're looking specifically at a diploma or certificate program, not an associate's program. And so that does not have a minimum GPA, but the HOPE grant is going to cover a large % of your tuition if you are looking at one of those certificate or diploma programs. There's also additional money in high needs careers, and there may be additional career grants money that is available. Again, this is for your technical colleges. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Gross to talk about scholarships.
Okay, forgot that mute. All righty. So for scholarships, there are a couple of different types of scholarships. There's merit scholarship, which is usually based on good grades, good test scores. It could be a particular talent. There are athletic scholarships, and then there are organizational scholarships. These are typically civic organizations or professional organizations that want to help students in some way. Generally, organizational scholarships tend to be a little bit smaller in dollar amounts. A lot of them are $500, $1,000 scholarships, but those can certainly add up if you get a couple of those. With regard to merit scholarships, the largest source of merit funding is going to be the college itself. It depends on the college, however. Some schools are much more generous about giving scholarships to students. Some colleges favor in-state students. If they're public schools, they may favor that. Georgia, because we have the HOPE scholarship, the colleges vary in what they're willing to give in terms of other institutional scholarships. So you would need to go on the website. And where you would find that is in the admission section. There should be a button for scholarships and financial aid. And there you can find references to any scholarships. You do want to pay attention to that because sometimes those scholarship deadlines are different than the regular deadlines. They'll have what they call that priority deadline that Mrs. Fay talked about. So you want to make sure that you are getting your application in and all the requested documentation so that you've got time to be considered for scholarship. And we generally recommend if you meet the criteria for scholarship, you should go ahead and plan on applying early by that deadline. We will post scholarships in Naviance. Again, those tend to be more of the organizational scholarships. Sometimes I do get information about a little bit bigger scholarships, and I will put that in there. We also get requests for scholarships that we have to do nominations for. So some examples of that would be the Wells Scholar Program at Indiana, the Robertson Scholarship, or excuse me, the Moorhead Kane Scholarship at North Carolina. And there are several other colleges that have that. Those will get posted in Naviance as well. I encourage you, if you are interested in any of those schools that offer those programs, make sure at a minimum, if you're not sure if you're going to apply and you don't want to put them in the colleges I'm applying to, at least put them in your colleges I'm interested in list, so that when I send that information out, I usually target it through Naviance to the students that have indicated that they are either applying to that college or interested in that college. So I encourage you, in the colleges I'm thinking about, it doesn't matter how many schools you have in there. That can be an all-encompassing list, but you will get notices when there's information about that college. So continue to check the college websites for scholarship. There are also a couple of organizations through Georgia Futures. They have scholarship information. Scholarly.com and fastweb.com are a couple of sources. The problem with some of those sites is that there is just so much information out there. It really is difficult to weed down to find scholarships that are appropriate or that are applicable. So it does take a little bit of work, but these are genuine valid sites for that information. The one thing I would caution you about scholarship is that if you have to pay for somebody to help you find a scholarship, I would be very, very wary of that website or that organization. Contact me, I'll do some research. You should not have to pay for scholarships. So we'll check that out. All right, Ms. Fay, we'll go to X2 Vol. All right, so I usually, when I talk to students, just like to do a brief overview of service hours. For those of you that are trying to track community service hours, you've probably put them in X2 Vol, and you've done it so that you have a great record of your volunteer service that you can send to colleges. Know that we are not sending this information to colleges. You will have to put that on your application. You're using it basically as a tracking device. You will access your X2 Vol through Naviance if you're not sure. At the bottom of the home page there's that box. And when you click on that, and if you'll advance me, Ms. Fay, it will take you into the dashboard page, and then you'll go to My Activity Log, and that's where you're going to put in your hours. So a couple of things you need to know is that normally we require students to have 180 hours of community service in order to receive the graduation service cord. It's that red, white, and blue cord that seniors get to wear at graduation, and that is the prize that everybody seems to be working for. We understand that it's been difficult to have access to service opportunities this year. So for the class of 2021 only, we have reduced the number of required service hours to 150. So what that means is if you have 150 hours of approved community service, you are going to receive the community service cord at the end. If you have just submitted those hours and they haven't been verified or they haven't been approved, please go back in and make sure that you complete the process. All the other guidelines are the same. Everything is listed in X2 Vol. The senior deadline for this year to submit your hours is April 16th. It's a little bit earlier than usual. We do it that way so that I have time to go through and update all your hours before graduation. We also understand that last year was a difficult year and communication was a little tough. So for last year's service hours only, we are extending the deadline to submit those hours to December 1st. So anything you did from junior year, which in volunteer service years means from May 25th, 2019 through the end of the last school year, if you did not submit it in X2 Vol by the May deadline, you have a reprieve. You can submit it by December 1st, all right? Hours from your freshman and sophomore year, if you did not submit those by the annual deadlines, those hours will not be approved for credit toward the service cord. All right, we'll go to the next slide. So this is just information on how to create your personal project. Make sure that your information is complete. If it's not, you won't get full approval, and then it just delays the process. So, you know, put in all that information. If you are a listing service for that took place over an extended period of time, on the calendar where you indicate the date, put the date you started that project, and then give me some information in the notes section about how much time you spent. For example, if you had a project that you did over the course of 2 months and you volunteered approximately 2 hours a week or 2 hours a day or whatever it is, that entry needs to make sense with those hours, okay? All right, and we'll go to the next slide. That's just more information on where to put that in. And then in the next slide, you can see your service hour history and know how you're tracking for your approved hours. And if you have questions, please email me. I'm happy to talk to you about your hours and double check. If you get hours that are not approved, go back to the entry and check why. I always include a note if I don't approve something. And if it's a partial approval and you need more information, you are welcome to resubmit it. You just need to answer the questions that I've asked in my response. Okay, Ms. Fay, I'll turn it back to you.
Okay. One other quick thing, seniors, every year you have the bridge law activity in Naviance. This is actually gonna be a survey that you do at the very end of the year, which is gonna tell us what your plan is for next year once you know. So you won't be filling this out till April, the end of April, beginning of May, letting us know your plan for the next year. So just wanna let you guys know that is coming. So I'm going to jump into the live demonstration. Miss Alpert has answered most of the questions. I was going through the chat really quickly. I did see that a lot of people said the GPA is not updated in Naviance. I have to manually upload those. So I'm hoping once we verify transcripts, we're still getting senior transcripts for new students. After that, I'll upload those. So I think you will I would expect to see that in the next week or two updated with your current GPA. So don't worry about that. And again, we aren't starting to process any of that information yet. So that will hopefully be updated. I believe most questions were answered. If you have additional questions, go ahead and put them in the chat at the bottom if Ms. Alpert wasn't able to address them. And while
I've got a few, Ms. Fay.
okay, so I'm gonna let
now.
Ms. Gross answer those while I pull up the live demonstration.
Okay, so there were a couple of things. Someone asked about applying ED1 and ED2 to different schools, and the answer is it depends. So you can only apply early decision to one school at a time. So if you apply ED1, you would have to wait until you get a determination from that school as to whether or not you're accepted. If you are accepted, you're done. If you are not accepted, you can apply to another school in ED2. They purposely time that so that students have a chance, if they're applying ED1 somewhere else, they will have a decision before they apply ED2. Let's see here. Someone had asked about waiving the rights for the recommendation. That is just you're waiving your right to see the recommendation letter. Another question was about deferred admission for the class of 2024. And this summer I've been tracking that question because I know that parents and students are really worried, and it seems to be mostly a non-issue. So in order for someone to defer their admission, they would have to get basically permission from the college to defer that admission. If they think they're going to defer it and then take classes somewhere else and jump back in, they would then be considered a transfer student because they've got college classes. So the colleges have granted some deferrals. For the most part, I am getting a very, very low to just slightly to no impact for students from last year's class. I mean, really, the whole purpose of a gap year is to do some sort of enrichment activity. And let's face it, there aren't a lot of things that students can do right now. So going to school in some ways makes the most sense. So most of them have elected to go to class. And so their admissions classes will go forward as is. Let's see, do you need to fill out all the questions in the teacher recommendation form? This is something that is really important to me. It's the more information you provide and the better the information is, the more you enable your teacher to write a really great detailed recommendation letter. And I think every student should want that for themselves. So I encourage you to do that completely. Let's see here. If you elected all teachers in your recommendation thing in Naviance, can you change it? You can change it if you haven't sent out or if no teacher letters have been sent out. So go in there tonight and change it to specific schools.
Yep, you'll have to cancel the request and then go back and add a new request.
Right. And Ms. Fay, let's see, oh, the recommendation packet to the teacher, they don't need the entire recommendation packet. Teachers only need that teacher recommendation page and sending the transcript after the application. Is that appropriate, or do you want to answer that, Ms. Fay?
Sure. If you're Common App, your transcript is going to be sent as part of your application and will be pulled down when the college downloads the application. I recommend requesting your transcript around the time that you apply. It doesn't necessarily have to be, and if it's Common App, you can go ahead and apply it whenever, because that's not going to affect the admissions. If it's a direct to institution and you request your transcript now, for example, and we go ahead and send it, and then you don't submit your application for a month or 6 weeks, it's then going to take a long time to electronically match up that transcript to the application. So you want to request your transcript close to when you apply if it's a non-Common App direct to institution.
Okay, and then the only other question was about posting, and we will post this on the website, and the website will be live by the end of the week.
Yeah, perfect. And then I saw one other question about where do we submit teacher recommendations for colleges that we are directly applying to, not through Common App. All teacher recommendations are done through Naviance. So whether it's Common App or not, it's all done through that teacher recommendation. So I'm going to go through and do a live demonstration. I understand we've been on for an hour and a half, so if you need to leave, I completely understand. But those that want to see it, just going to spend about 5 minutes showing you guys in live time what it looks like. So I've logged into my Walton Raider, and he is a senior this year. And I am going to be adding schools. So I'm going to be going to the colleges I'm applying to tab. And here we see again, you see where right here you're going to match your Common App. So if I click that account and I scroll down, it's going to ask for my Common App email address that I used to create my Common App account and my date of birth. And again, as long as I've added at least one college in my Common App account and signed my FERPA waiver, it's going to match really quickly and then add my colleges that are already in my Common App account to my Naviance account. From there, I can add a college by clicking the plus sign. I am going today to apply to University of Georgia. So I'm going to click Georgia. I am going to apply early action to Georgia, and I am going to submit my application directly to the institution. I'm going to use UGA's application. And from there, I can see that I've added Georgia. Again, like we talked about, you're not requesting your transcripts in here, so it's going to say no request, and my official, my office materials is going to say pending, and once we have sent your transcript, it will switch to initial materials submitted. If I needed to, oh my gosh, Georgia College, I really didn't use the Common App, I use their application. I can go in and edit and change this to direct institution and save and update that by using that pencil. So you can edit here, and again, you just want to make sure. You can locate the letters of recommendation section right here, or on your college's tab. So if you scroll down, we're going to go into letters of recommendation. And here's what it's going to look like. So we talked about, I want to add a request. I've been selecting Dr. Williams because he's an administrator and won't get confused about who's Walton Raider. So if I select Dr. Williams, and again, I do not want to select all current, I want to choose specific. I'm going to see that schools that are on the Common App are going to tell me how many, and the ones that aren't. So Georgia College are going to allow 3. I want this teacher to send to Georgia College. Georgia Tech is going to allow 1. I want him to do that one. KSU, well, I've already added that request. KSU does not take letters of recommendation. Mississippi State does not look at letters of recommendation. UGA, because I've done my research, I know UGA allows one. I'm going to hit it, and then I'm going to submit my request. And then I'm going to clearly see that I've requested for those colleges my teacher. And then if I ever have to go back in, I can add the request and add him for additional schools. Okay. Other things to know that we got some questions about, if I'm in my colleges tab, at the very bottom, you're going to see the college visits. Ms. Gross hasn't added any quite yet, but that will change soon. Here is where you're going to go, and you will see the schools in here and where to register. So people wanted to know where I register. It's right there. Okay. So that's really, I think, the most important things. Ms. Gross, anything else to cover in here? There's
Yep.
all right there. But it's pretty user-friendly when you get in there. So you can always ask the counselor to Zoom with you, share your screen with us, and we can walk you through it if you're having problems. Okay? Any questions about that in the chat right now that someone wants to see something?
I don't see anything in there unless somebody wants to add one now.
I want to say.
I see the retired teacher. So if a teacher has retired, there are a few teachers that have agreed to write letters. And for those, I've been able to add them into Naviance using their personal email address. You just want to reach out to them first. But there are a few teachers that are not currently at Walton that you'll still see in the teacher list that have agreed to write letters even if they've left Walton.
I'd like to add on to that, if you don't know how to reach out to that teacher personally, if you ask somebody in their department, so like, for example, I know there was a Spanish teacher who retired last year. And so like, if you reach out to a Spanish teacher in the department, that Spanish teacher can reach out to that teacher for you and either, get their email address added into Naviance or help you get hooked up with that Spanish teacher, whatever the teacher is that you are trying to reach. So, and I wanted to make another comment, something in the chat is once again, you all are going to be getting a copy of your transcript in early September. It will be mailed out directly to your house. So we in the counseling department, we are going over each and every one of the senior transcripts and making sure that everybody is in the proper classes, have the right credits, et cetera, et cetera. 2 counselors are actually reviewing your transcripts. Okay. And so the first week in September, we will be mailing everybody a copy of their transcript and a letter that kind of explains what classes you still need. So a lot of people have been saying, what's my current GPA? Should I report my GPA from last semester? So you will get a copy of your transcript that will list your GPA, it will list your credits and everything on there. So that comes out again. We're mailing it the first week in September.
Awesome. Well, a few of the questions at the end we've reviewed, so those will be available in the PowerPoint. And we're happy if you have additional questions, just reach out and email us. You guys, we know this is not a typical senior year, so please utilize us. Anything you need help with, we're here to help you in this process. So hopefully we'll be seeing your faces in this building sooner than later. So take care, and I'm going to go ahead and end the meeting. Thank you, guys.
Bye, everybody.